Hello there, I'm Heidi Adams in for Esther Gitui US. It is Friday, September 9th, and this is Africa 54.
Britain's Queen Elizabeth II dies after 70 years on the throne. US President Joe Biden and other world leaders pay tribute. People across Africa react to the death of Queen Elizabeth, who was a symbol of the British Empire, which colonized many African nations. And in our entertainment report, Heather Maxwell presents the Ethiopian quintet Qwanqwa. They are currently on their first tour in the US.
And we begin our broadcast with coverage on the death of Britain's Queen Elizabeth II, who died Thursday at the age of 96 at her residence in Scotland. She was Britain's longest-serving monarch and just this year celebrated 70 years on the throne. Henry Ridgwell looks back on the life of one of the world's most respected heads of state.
She was the only monarch many of the British alive today have ever known. A symbol of her nation, its empire and its Commonwealth. She personified British strength and character, long before she even knew she would be Queen.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
At 25, Elizabeth ascended to the throne after the death of her father, George VI, nearly 5 years after she had married the Greek-born Prince Philip. She saw a thorough transformation of society and technology during her reign of more than 7 decades, a time in which she warned about the dangers of throwing away ageless ideals while embracing the advantages of new inventions. She sent out her first tweet in 2014. There are few records she did not break. She was Britain's most travelled, oldest, longest reigning monarch.
As head of the Commonwealth, the Queen has links with the past. Sometimes it's a past that's difficult to come to terms with because you think of empire, you think of colonial exploitation, for example. But so far as the Queen is concerned, you think of her dedication to the organisation.
She represented Britain in friendships with those who held in common the British values of freedom, equality and democracy. With dignity, she faced those who did not. Being seen with her was a means of gaining the appearance of prestige. The Queen was not immune to criticism in her own country. The left targeted her as a symbol of an institution out of place in a postmodern, neoliberal and democratic world, and a burden on the British taxpayer. The death of the popular Princess Diana was an opportunity for her critics, who accused her of being coldly slow to react.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
The marriage of her grandson, Prince William, to Kate Middleton brought youthful glamour to the ancient institution. When Prince Harry married American actor Meghan Markle, Elizabeth was at the head of a family that appeared to be moving with the times, popular, diverse and global. But there were painful times ahead. Her second son, Prince Andrew, was investigated for links to a convicted child sex offender. Harry and Meghan fell out with the royal family amid accusations of racism. The passing of Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, in 2021 left an enduring image, a queen mourning alone as the coronavirus pandemic swept across her nation. In September, she appointed the 15th Prime Minister of her reign, her last major public engagement. Queen Elizabeth remains a giant in the history of one of the planet's great nations, a bridge between Britain's colonial past and its future as a global player in a world vastly different from the one she was born in. Visiting Germany in 2015, she spoke of the vast changes she had witnessed.
In our lives, Mr. President, we have seen the worst, but also the best of our continent. We have witnessed how quickly things can change for the better. But we know that we must work hard to maintain the benefits of the post-war world.
Britain's royal tradition, of which Elizabeth was a steward, is now in the hands of her heirs. The Britain they inherit is a drastically different one in terms of demographics, culture and economics. In a globalised, pluralistic world, their job of projecting an image of greatness is no less complicated. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
Well, now for more on the death of Queen Elizabeth, we go live now to London, where correspondent Henry Ridgwell is standing by for us. Henry, good evening to you. Tributes are pouring in as the world, I guess, now comes to terms with the death of Queen Elizabeth. Tell us, what does London look, sound and feel like right now?
It's a sombre mood in London and across the country, and I think across the Commonwealth as well. But I think the grief that was felt immediately after that announcement at about 6:30 p.m. local time yesterday is sort of giving way to the structure and the ceremony that has long been planned with the passing of the monarch. Yesterday there was a feeling of shock, of great grief at the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Now the reflection and the mourning can begin, and the kind of vacuum that was felt in those first hours after the announcement of her death yesterday has been replaced as King Charles III takes over the reins, takes over the throne in Britain, and the next few days will bring several events, state events, and opportunities for the British public to outpour their grief, to share their memories and their sorrow at losing Queen Elizabeth. But already today, less than 24 hours after the death was announced, we've seen King Charles III and Queen Consort Camilla fly down from Balmoral Castle, where Queen Elizabeth died, down to London to begin his duties as king. And there was a lovely moment, an unscripted moment really, of warmth, of connection between the new king and his people in the last few hours. When his car arrived at Buckingham Palace, he got out before he went through the gates to greet some of the thousands of well-wishers who have gathered outside Buckingham Palace, and went along the crowd shaking hands. There were shouts of God save the king from people in the crowd. There were some who kissed his hand. One woman even leaned over and kissed the new king on the cheek. There are many unknowns about what the new era will be like under King Charles III, what kind of character, what kind of monarch he will be. But I think this particular moment outside Buckingham Palace has given the public and given the royal family encouragement that there will be warmth and gratitude and goodwill towards the new king as he begins a new era as the head of state of Britain.
Henry Ridgwell, thank you so much for giving us that update there from London. We'll get back to you soon as we continue to follow this story. Thank you so much for your time. Well, now to the U.S. Capitol, where the White House is mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth II, with President Joe Biden describing the long-reigning British monarch as a key contributor to the strong relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. That became clear as prominent Americans, including former presidents, paid tribute. VOA's Anita Powell brings us more from Washington.
Queen Elizabeth II was no stranger to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. She came here for 4 state visits, 5 state dinners, and 2 unofficial visits, meeting more U.S. presidents than any other head of state, says the White House Historical Association. On Thursday, President Joe Biden ordered the flag lowered to mark her death. Word of her death arrived at the White House as Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was briefing journalists.
Our hearts and our thoughts go to the family members of the Queen, goes to the people of United Kingdom.
Biden, who met the Queen on 3 occasions, credited her with strengthening the United States' relationship with its strongest ally. Britain's longest reigning monarch was also a promoter of self-rule. During a 1991 address to a joint session of Congress, she said the US and the UK were united behind a spirit of democracy. In her lifetime, she oversaw the independence of 17 African nations from British rule. Earlier this year, her heir, now King Charles III, pledged to continue to respect the sovereignty of the 50-plus members of the Commonwealth, composed mostly of former colonies.
The benefit of long life brings me the experience that arrangements such as these can change calmly and without rancor. But as I said in Barbados last November, we should never forget the things which do not change.
Former President Barack Obama also sent his condolences, praising the Queen's legacy of tireless, dignified public service. She saw that duty as her life's work. At no point in her 70-year reign did she ever exercise what is called the royal prerogative, by refusing to appoint a democratically chosen official to form a government. And it was no different 2 days before her death, when, at her estate in Scotland, she invited Liz Truss, now the Prime Minister, to do so. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
Well, let's go live now via Skype to the British Embassy here in Washington, where correspondent Qwanqwa Liwewe is standing by. Qwanqwa, hello there. Tell us what is happening. What are people there telling you?
Most of them to the Queen, they are fondly, and that, you know, as Americans, they're really deeply intrigued with the royal family and the monarch. Yesterday was more about shock and anguish. Today is more about just coming to pay their respects. They're also eager to know details about the funeral and, of course, the coronation of King Charles III.
Qwanqwa, we had some audio issues there, but what does the mood feel like? You know, do people feel like they are closer to the royal family being just at the British Embassy? I'm sure people want to do whatever they can to feel really close to the tragedy and to the royal family right now.
Absolutely, yes. That is exactly what we're seeing. And it's not just the Americans coming here to pay their respects. We're seeing people from the diplomatic corps. We're at the heart of the diplomatic corps in Washington, D.C. So a lot of those people are coming. We're seeing dignitaries. We're seeing ordinary people from the diaspora as well, just coming to pay their respects to the Queen. They're bringing flowers, cards, and flags as well, just to show some respect to the Queen who passed away yesterday.
Well, Qwanqwa, thank you very much for that update. Qwanqwa Liwewe is at the U.S. Embassy here in Washington for us. Now, of course, there has been reaction throughout the African continent. Queen Elizabeth is being remembered with mixed feelings, as her death has reignited criticism of Britain's legacy of colonialism. Now, the Queen's reign also saw the dissolution of countries and the British Empire throughout the African continent and other parts of the world. Joining me now is Julius. I would like to see his name. Joining me now is Julius Nuchunguzi. He is the former spokesperson for the Commonwealth Secretariat. He joins me via Skype from Kampala, Uganda. Julius, hello there.
Hello, good evening from Uganda, and I'm happy to join you.
Julius,
we've seen.
Thank you, Julius. We've seen tributes from African leaders speaking about the Queen in very glowing terms. She was, of course, very well liked and well respected in many parts of Africa, no doubt about that. But much of the criticism that people have been airing here also is about the role the British monarchy played in the transatlantic slave trade, for instance, the brutal past of British colonialism in Africa, and the fact that many on the continent are still waiting for an apology, for reparations, for what Britain has done, things that were not too glowing on the continent and in their past. How do African countries now reconcile these aspects of Queen Elizabeth II's mixed legacy on the continent?
Thank you very much. I think one thing that is for sure is that Queen Elizabeth, even with the history of the empire, demonstrated and was the glue that enabled the membership of the countries, especially in Africa, that became members of the Commonwealth upon independence. She was the glue that even when there were many differences, even when there are issues that remain about the role of the empire, when members became independent and decided to remain in the Commonwealth voluntarily, what has united them going forward is much more than what is held in the history of the empire. So I must tell you that, for instance, in Uganda, the Queen Elizabeth is remembered with fondness. Fondness as recent as 2007, when Uganda hosted the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. The highlight of that meeting of Commonwealth Heads of Government, the Summit of Leaders, was the presence and the arrival of Queen Elizabeth. So there are two things that are at play here. There is the history of the past that was not palatable, that was not pleasant. But from the moment the members of the Commonwealth remained voluntarily in the association of what unites them on values of freedom, on values of democracy and development, the Queen remains a very well respected and highly appreciated leader of the Commonwealth.
Julius, thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there. Julius Muchunguzi is a former spokesperson for the Commonwealth Secretariat. He joined me from Kampala in Uganda. Now we're going to bring you reaction from people across the African continent who spoke upon learning of the death of Queen Elizabeth.
I feel totally indifferent about the death of the Queen. Indifferent because she's somebody, or her office of Queen and head of state of the British country and the so-called Commonwealth means absolutely nothing to us. What we remember about the office of the Queen was a history filled with plundering of resources through colonialism from the time of Queen Victoria down to a time when she was Queen. Colonization of Africa was rubber-stamped by her office, and she is a beneficiary of the riches and wealth that was planted from Africa that sustained the office of the Queen. So from that perspective, we expected and still expect that office to apologize for the atrocities that were carried out through that office, or as a result of the office of the Queen or King, the role they played in the colonization of Africa.
Now we also have reaction from South Africa and other African nations.
I didn't hear or see the announcement, but ndakaona pama status evanhu. That's when I realized the Queen died, but there's no effect anyway. No effect at all.
Why?
No effect. My life is moving. She says, "Utongo fire like usual." There's no change. I don't feel anything. Although people are just making fun of it, yeah. So on social media, it's trending, and I'm just laughing about it. But I've got no attachment. I've got no feelings at all.
Yeah, it was a pain. It was a great loss, yeah, because she was a mother to the world, yeah. Yeah, to me, I don't have much, but it was a great loss. Yeah. Only. Yes.
Queen was motherly. Was motherly and understanding. We lost. But in the beginning, you know, my early days, colonialism, you find it, I go dance all the tune, yeah, in my British. But afterwards, she was motherly.
When I think about the Queen, I was still young when I grew up. I took her as a role model to me as a woman, that she has to be strong. I have to dress well and look well, and then take care of my kids.
I hope someone like her will take over and lead the people the way she did.
It's quite sad, but we're just saying we're grateful that she's been on the throne for so long and she did whatever she had to do. And yeah, let's just celebrate her life.
So I felt so sad when I heard about her passing, but I also celebrate her life as a symbol of leadership, symbol of peace. And I remember that she gave us our independence and the platter of gold, and that I'm grateful about. And of course, I ask her soul rest in perfect peace.
She has done her best, and she has handed over the battle to us. So I just wish the people of England all the best, and nevertheless, it's a time of sober reflection. And she has lived a life that everybody does in one way or the other benefit.
Thank the Lord that God allowed her to live long on earth. And we also thank God that all the period of time he was in power in England, so he ruled the country very well.
It's a sad day because, Kenya was colonized by the British. So Kenya is a part and parcel of the British system. So we have a feeling about the death of the Queen.
They were the ones who colonialized us, and we have been having good terms with them. Yeah, it is sad to the whole world, not even in Kenya alone.
Remembering the Queen, because she was once in Kenya, and she was crowned when she was in Nyeri, I think. Yeah. And we were colonized by the British, and Kenya is one of the Commonwealth members, and I'm sure soon we'll join the Britain in the burial ceremony.
Well, still to come here, our entertainment report, and Heather Maxwell presents the neo-traditional Ethiopian quintet Qwanqwa. We'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Well, now in other news from around the continent, Angola's Constitutional Court has made a final ruling to dismiss a complaint filed by the runner-up in the August 24th election seeking to annul the results that gave victory to the ruling MPLA. A Tigrayan rebel spokesperson says they are proposing a conditional truce in the war in northern Ethiopia as fresh fighting forced a halt to aid deliveries in the stricken Tigray region. And police in the Chadian capital N'Djamena fired tear gas Friday to disperse supporters of a leading critic of the country's ruling junta as he was summoned for questioning following clashes last week. Well, it's time now for our entertainment report, and here's music time in Africa with host Heather Maxwell. Hello, Heather. Hello there.
Hi, Haiti. Yes, that's right. Direct from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The group Qwanqwa came through VOA last week, and they performed live right here in this studio. This group is the generation of Ethiopian traditional music. They're just beginning their 3-month debut tour across the U.S. This was their second appearance since arriving in New York City, and they're thrilled to be able to share their own new twist to classic songs, not just from Ethiopia, but also from other neighboring countries. Here's a cut from their performance last week, Mdetna, meaning, how are you? It's their Welcome to Qwanqwa song.
And then
that's our entertainment report for Friday. Haiti, back to you.
Heather, thank you so much for that. And that is our show today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.